If you look at the salary slip of Rocket Singh, you see that he is paying an income tax of 15,000 each month, which is being deposited to the government. Now, our focus point is how can he reduce this taxes of 15,000, and to be able to understand how we can do that, you need to first understand the various components of your salary, the taxability of these components, and how if you deal with each component one after another, you can reduce the overall tax liability that is due by you to the government. If you were to look at the various components of a salary structure, you will find that they vary from one employee to another. While there is no statutory law which mandates what should be the various components of a salary structure, there is a very general or a common understanding of what to expect when you look at a particular salary structure. When you look at your salary slip, the largest component generally of your salary slip is going to be the basic component, which is more often than not equal to at least half of your total monthly pay. So in case of Rocket Singh, if he is earning a CTC of 12 lakhs, his monthly pay is going to be 1 lakh. If you look at his basic component, it's going to be an amount of 50,000 rupees per month, which is 50% of his CTC or 50% of his monthly pay. To help you reduce the taxability of the various components in your salary, let's combine or let's group your various components into those that are fully taxable and those that are potentially taxable. Now, those components that are potentially taxable are those where you would like to put your attention and focus on, so that they are the ones which are going to help you reduce your tax liability. If you look at the fully taxable components, some of the common components that will fall under this category are your basic salary, your dearness allowance, special allowances given by companies, or any other allowances by whatever name that you can receive them. Of all of these, dearness allowance is something you will typically find in a government employee's pay slip, whereas the other allowances are very common across all kinds of employees. If you shift your focus to the potentially taxable components of your salary, the first one here is your HRA or house rent allowance, and this is the most important component of your salary, or the component which can help you save taxes to the maximum amount. In addition to the HRA, you have the leave travel allowance, you have the car maintenance allowance, you have a food allowance, you have a children education allowance. Now, what is common across all of this is that these are allowances given for a particular purpose, and if you use the money for that particular purpose, then that allowance which is given to you becomes tax free in your hands. If you do not use the money for the purpose for which it is given to you, then the government says that I will tax you for that particular allowance. For example, if you are given a children education allowance and you spend that money for the education of your children, to the extent of the limit specified, that money becomes tax-free in your hands. But if you do not use the money for that particular purpose, then the education allowance being paid out to you gets taxed in your hands. In addition to the various allowances, you also have the FPB category, which is your components which are treated as tax-free provided you submit your bills to your employer. If you were to look at the salary slip of Rocket Singh, you can see that on the left hand side, he has earnings in the form of basic and special allowance. Now, the basic pay and the special allowance is going to be completely taxable. His HRA component of 25,000 is potentially taxable to the extent of deduction he claims. We will discuss this in detail. And even the other three components, that is LTA, food allowance and telephone reimbursements, can be taxable or non-taxable depending on how he claims these various allowances that are given to him. What you need to understand is this is money which is paid out to you every month, right? What is going to change is whether you will be taxed for these particular amounts or not. So those two components which are fully taxable are going to get taxed irrespective of whether you do anything or not. The rest of the four components that you see in his payslip, from his HRA till the telephone reimbursement, these are components which will definitely get paid out to you each month, because that is what is promised by your employer when he signed on you as an employee, and that's what is mentioned in your CTC. What will vary or what will differ between you and maybe your neighbor at the desk in your office is that if you are smart and you plan your taxes well, you may actually not pay taxes on these four components. Whereas if you are lax and do not plan your taxes well, you may land up paying taxes on these four components. So while the LHS of 1 lakh is going to stay constant, what is going to change is the income tax portion on the right hand side. If you understand these components and plan your taxes well, your income tax amount would reduce, and if you do not do anything about them, you will end up paying a much higher amount of income tax.